welcome everybody from wherever you're calling in. I saw people coming from all over the U.S. and India and other places, Canada. So this is great. So welcome everybody. So this is a live on ServiceNow session, and we're going to be talking about data strategy with your CMDB and CSDM innovations that we're actually coming out with here. We will be making some forward-looking statements throughout this webinar, so please don't make any buying decisions based on any futures we may mention today. For this session, this is part of a broader schedule of sessions like this. So here's a QR code you can use to get a list of all the different live and ServiceNow sessions that we're providing. You can subscribe to future sessions and see some of the ones that we've recorded in the past. So a little bit of housekeeping. Right now, everybody's muted, but you have a Q&A feature, so you can actually use that to submit your questions ahead of time. We will pause at the end of the entire session to go back through the questions. So make note when you're watching the content on what that question is and get that entered so that we can get back to you. The presentation will be recorded and shared after the event, so just keep that in mind. If you do have to get out or you have other colleagues that want to see that, you can go ahead and forward this recording to them. And at the end, you will also be prompted for a survey. Of course, we thrive on your feedback. We want to do what you want us to do. So we serve you. So any feedback is going to be welcome. Okay, so the first topic that we have today is called SGC Central, or Service Graph Connector Central. So I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Shanae.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Shanai. I'm Inbound Product Manager at ServiceNow, and I'm excited to introduce you to SGC Central, our new comprehensive solution designed to help you manage your Service Graph connectors. If you're new to SGC Central or if you have installed it but aren't sure how to use this demo is for you. We'll go through the common use cases, best practices, and the tips to help you get value from this product. So SG Central provides the modern unified console for managing the entire life cycle of your Service Graph connectors, from the installation to configuration and to debugging. Its centralized and intuitive user interface not only enhances the experience but also provides complete visibility into the health and statuses of your connectors. This is crucial in maintaining operational efficiency and minimizing integration issues. We have already seen great feedback from our early users. They've highlighted the ease of monitoring and managing connectors from a single dashboard. They particularly appreciate the simplified setup processes and the ability to quickly assess connection status and key metrics. Uh, yeah. So let's dive into some key features. One of the biggest benefit is the consolidated status view. Here you can check the current status of each connection to identify issues like incorrect credentials or connectivity problems, see the outcome of most recent processing runs, along with activated schedules and any summary of any errors that occurred. And you can monitor the ongoing execution with the start times to detect any slow jobs or stalled import in real time. Mark, if you can move to the next slide. Thanks. Setting up connectors is now faster and error-proof with our playbook experience. Playbooks guide you to step by step and prevent skipping important steps that could cause issues later in the runtime. You can create the connections directly from the dashboard of the SG Central or the All Connections page using the Create Connection button. Once you click on it, you'll be navigated to this playbook where you can perform your setups. SG Central supports connection creation for all the connections that are mentioned in our product documentation. For the other connectors that are not supported on this console, you will be guided to the old guided setup view from here. Next slide. You can use the following charts in the SG Central to track your data ingestions and processing metrics. You can track the number of import sets, import rows, CIs, and partial records that were imported into the CMDB over a past 7 days. You can also apply dashboard filters at the top to narrow down or track metrics for a specific connector over a specific period of time. Next slide, Mark. Yes. The following charts here, you can use them to spot any outliers in your ingested data or processing time. You can check the trend of your CIs that were added or updated regularly. And you can also see any data processing errors that occurred during the import process and the top 10 connections by the latest import set processing time. Next, you can navigate to all connections to view and edit any installed connections. You can resume any setup for any draft connection if you left it off incomplete previously. You can modify the system properties for any specific connectors from here, or you can update or execute your import schedules as needed. We have made identifying and fixing errors easier with SGC Central. You can navigate to this connection record and check all the errors related to the service graph connector in this errors tab of connection record, and then use our Now Assist feature for a quick suggestions and quickly resolving these issues. Last, we recommend using SG Central to stay updated with your connectors. In the Explore Connector section, you can see which installed connectors have a new update version available. And you can also see which connectors are already installed in your instance, and you have the required license to install and use it. Next slide, Mark. Yes, lastly, for more in-depth information, we have multiple resources created. We have a community article which talks about the best practice and for frequently asked questions. We have YouTube videos that talks about this product further and give a live demo. And we have detailed product documentation on managing the SGC Central. Thank you for your time today. I hope you have a clear view of what SGC Central can do and how you get most from it. And we appreciate any questions and feedback you may have. Giving it back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Shanae. Nick, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, everyone. My name is Nick Ryan. I'm an inbound product manager based down in Texas, and I cover the API Insights product that came out about a year ago in the initial release. And so thanks for taking the time to listen in here. We just have a couple slides on this. If you want to go to the first one, Mark. Before I dive into all the features and capabilities of API Insights, I first want to touch on the use cases that customers have come to us to solve with this product. And so these four that are on this slide are really the most pervasive that we've seen across a number of customers. If you can go back there, Mark. There you go.
Right.
And within these use cases, what you see on the top right with healthcare and financial services, those little notes are there simply as highlights to the customers that we've seen the most traction with being in those industries. And so it's not to say that we haven't had other customers with a lot of interest outside of those industries, but just regulations and compliance purposes within the financial services especially are really driving customers to solve these use cases. And the first one around a centralized inventory of APIs. So if you look at PCI, which is a credit card standard within the United States, PCI standards really are driving customers to have a consolidated inventory of all their APIs. And so with that, about 2 years ago, we introduced a data model into the CMDB for APIs. And since then, we've been building a number of integrations to import APIs in. They're a subset of service graph connectors, really. And what that has allowed customers to really do is remove access requirements into point products, whether it's an API gateway or security tool or some other source of API inventory, and allows them to use ServiceNow as a way of accessing and reporting on and evaluating all the APIs across the entire company. And so with that, the second one around compliance and governance, really what customers are having to do a lot now is understand what data is flowing in and out of API requests, right? Is there personally identifiable information or health-related information in the requests and responses? And it goes to part of what they do with data governance, as well as understanding, all right, is there enough security around these APIs now as customers start to adopt AI and generative AI in these conversations? Is my API basically AI ready? Is a term that we've started to hear from customers. And so, again, it gives one place to start to evaluate all that data about your APIs across the company. And then impact analysis is a pretty standard use case within ServiceNow for any infrastructure related things. You know, you have a server go down, you want to know who's impacted by it. And the same holds true when it comes to APIs. So customers are really wanting to understand who's using an API, whether that's, you know, a system account or end developers, and then they need to be able to notify and just evaluate the impact of making changes on an API by understanding who all is consuming that API. And the last major one, and we've partnered with some API-specific security vendors that also are integrating with our vulnerability response modules. And so we're bringing a central place for customers to do vulnerability response as it relates to APIs across the landscape. So these four are really resonating pretty universally with any customer that we talk to. So if you want to go to the next slide, Mark. And so in terms of what comes in API Insights, right now, this is a standalone product. And so there's different pieces to it. The first is a dedicated workspace to do the things that are noted there on the slide. As Shanae just went through with Service Graph Central, we actually embed pieces of that within the API Insights workspace, but it's specific to API related integrations that import API data into the CMDB. But after that, we provide different flows for updating specific data attributes on the CIs. We allow for updating very specific relationship types on APIs and evaluating that. The screenshot on the right shows a little bit of that in terms of the relationship map in the CMDB. You can't see a lot of it, but that's a single API, and then it's showing different components of the API and different app services and business apps that API is part of. And then the other side of it, outside of the workspace, are all the integrations. So at the bottom here, the first column shows what we have in general availability today, the things that are on the innovation lab, those that are in development are nearly complete. And then we've started even on some of the work on those in the plan phase. And there's a large backlog of planned integrations in this space, but this is what is available now and then in the near future. And so I'll just wrap up with saying again that it's currently a standalone SKU that customers need to get entitlement to this. It is really based on a similar ITOM type of model with subscription units and such. So if there's any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me or Robbie Bonsall. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nick. And next up is actually me to cover some of our Gen AI use cases. As you probably have noticed, our entire organization has shifted to focus more on AI agents and AI in general. We're now considered ourselves as the ServiceNow AI platform, in fact, and it's safe to say many of our investments these days are AI centric. And we have a number of things that we provide today out of the box that it does require licensing level, right? So you do have to have a Now Assist license level at some point to use our agents as well. But you don't have to buy our agents directly. So how this really works is that we have an AI agent orchestrator, And we have a number of different AI agents that are provided when you enable the CMDB governance agents. And so this is just an inventory, and I'll describe each one of them, and then we'll do a little demo as well. But the first one is something called the Principal CI Class Agent. And this is an agent that will look at your data to identify how you're using CIs in your incident processes and change processes, and make recommendations on what principal classes to set within your CMDB. This is a common feature that many organizations don't really get around to using or analyzing or really setting, that makes it so much easier to use CMDBs in different processes. And what this will do is make the recommendations, but also change the principal classes based on its recommendations. So if you go off of its recommendations, you don't have to jump around to different features in the product to do this. From a best practice perspective, this is often what we teach customers how to do, but they forget about it. And when I go and usually look at a get well situation where customers are like, how can I improve things? This is an easy, low-hanging fruit thing to do. That's now part of the agents that we provide that analysis and adjustment out of the box. The next one, CMDB Data Manager Agent, helps set the lifecycle management policies for the principal classes as well. So we look at those policies, if they're set or not, and make recommendations around that, and take you to the areas where you can make those adjustments and create those policies. So Data Manager is another product we'll cover in a minute to show you what that looks like in a minute. The CMDB Data Certification Agent looks at the certification process. So this one basically looks at whether or not you've got certification set up, and makes recommendations on that, and takes you to the user experiences to make those adjustments if you don't have that set up. The health agent looks at duplicative or inconsistent principal class data. Again, we're using principal classes as the scope for the more important elements in the CMDB to actually look at. So the first one's sort of a prerequisite if you think about it for the rest, but this is where we're looking at, duplicates, the number of duplicates for those principal classes, and we do have the opportunity to address them through a duplicate templates of processing. And the last one is ownership agent. One of the key challenges in governing the data is making sure owners are assigned to the CIs. Basically, it's really hard to assign somebody a task to attest or to do the certification of a CI if you don't know who the owner is. So this looks at ownership gaps and provides suggestions on how to basically close those gaps as well. So those are the key agents here that we have available. The next page kind of gets into more or less the searching capability. Some of this is going to be improved over the next couple of releases. I'm hearing probably Q1 next year. But what we have is an analyze query agent. So basically, this looks at the intent of the query and communicates back to the orchestrator what that query is. So think about it this way: is that the query, the queries that we write basically are trying to get certain data out of the CMDB, and so this is an ability to analyze those queries and provide the classification of those. Keyword search is another thing. As you look at the CMDB, there's a lot of information that's available. So this is a pretty simple search in terms of a single CI. Like if you want to just scope it to a certain class, it looks at the keywords, it brings back results, and it's only looking at a single class. This is an improvement on some of the stuff we've done in the past with intelligent search. So this is getting better. And as we create these AI agents, they will be employed in broader workflows. Probably the best way to describe that. So if you're looking for something as part of a broader workflow, these might be employed in those orchestrated AI workflows. Single table search agent. This is, again, looking at encoded queries to perform a list search directly in the CMDB for a single table. And then what we're getting into Q3, Q4, maybe even Q1 of next year is that multi-table agent search. Now, this is going to be a lot more comprehensive We're working more closely with our platform team to make sure that access rights, that the right relationship or references are used. So there's a lot of work going into the multi-table searches. We don't want folks to come back with results that they don't have privileges to see. So we're trying to make this performant, but also make it safe so that customers get the data results across this, I would say, more comprehensive searches across tables. So that's what's coming, but the other items are pretty much there now as well. Now there's more. So this is getting into some more of the roadmap elements of the AI, and then so the mapping assistant. What we've got here is the ability to recommend how to map incoming data to CI classes, and so a lot of organizations create their own connectors or their own IHETL jobs. So this will assist in being able to figure that out. The next item here is enhancing the search, kind of like what we were talking about here a minute ago. So as we learn about what customers are searching for, how they want to search for it, right? Related entities, we're continuously evolving our search capabilities, especially contextually making those searches work in other workflows. The one in the middle here, the CMDB schemas Q&A, that one's kind of more interesting to me because as we add descriptions to CIs, I do have a lot of customers that come and just say, I have this device, I don't know where to put it. So this schema Q&A is going to be much more robust, and that will be very helpful for folks that and help prevent creating new CI classes that might already exist and you're just not finding it. A lot of hands up there. That's a good feedback on we're on the right track there. And we have over 1,200 CI classes, so yeah, there's a lot to search. HAM Advisor is another one that we're actually coming out with now. These coincide with other product teams that we're working with, and we're trying to scope the data quality issues of the CMDB to make sure we're actually fixing the CIs that matter most for these outcomes, these products that you also buy on the platform provide. So in this case, the way HAM Advisor works is pretty cool, which is that we look at things like the model categories, which matches your CI class to your asset class, and we basically scope the quality assessments on those model classes, basically, the model category classes. So that will be a new feature that helps with the getting value quicker with HAM, because we have a lot of customers that when they do buy that product, they don't necessarily have the data there to get the value right away. So this is going to be very helpful to accelerate that process.
Hey, Mark, just a quick thing. We are releasing HAM Advisor next month.
Yes. So it's moved up from 2026.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, good to know. All right, so ITSM Advisor, I think that might be still for 2026, but the ITSM is going to be similar in nature, but focus on the ITSM data and use cases. So same thing. If it's problem, incident, change that you're trying to do, we want to scope that again. Probably looking at principal classes as a mechanism to scope that as well. But yeah, fixing those ITSM processes, greater value, time to value. And then the SAM CSDM agent as well. So that one is going to be similar in nature to the HAM Advisor, but going to be focused on the software elements. And there's a lot of moving parts there. Software product models, there's a new software component model that's come in. So that's going to take a little bit more to get that nailed. But again, working on with the SAM team to make sure that the software asset management product has good data. Now, we're going a little faster than we expected, and I have a minute to actually do a quick demo. So before I get into my next section, I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to actually switch to sharing my screen. And so this is my test instance, and I just want to show you how these things work. This is getting into your AI Agent Studio. There's a testing section for this. And I just brought this up. And when you go to select one of the AI agents, these are, again, standalone, or you can employ these in a broader workflow. You'll see a number of agents that we just walked through here. The one that I really like is the Principal Class Manager Agent. To kick it off, you just need to ask the question. And of course, after I state that question, the agent will pick up the task and go to work. The nice thing about the AI Agent Studio is you can kind of see what it's doing here as I'm testing it. As we start to create more and more agents, I basically liken this to an army of agents that you can employ in more comprehensive processes. And you can see some of the stuff that it's doing here and what it will recommend as a result. So I expect over the next couple of years, all of these agents will really start to make much higher value when they're strung together in a more comprehensive flow. But we're creating the army right now. Each agent has its own skill. Each agent will actually look at accomplishing a particular task, and then of course, as it accomplishes that task, it'll sometimes feed into the next task. So this is a pretty underpowered development systems or demo system. So I'm just I'm letting this kind of run, and you can see there's only one current principal class that I've set right now. It's looking at incidents and other material. It's other references basically that have been used here in my instance. And it's running through all this in the background here as I'm talking. And then based on the results, it's going to say, hey, you know what? There's some other classes which we would recommend you mark them as principal classes. And it actually asks you whether or not you want to take that extra step. And the nice thing is I can go ahead and say yes, and it'll do that. Or I could just take this away and do it through another process. But a very valuable, set of analysis that happens that we would do manually otherwise. Right, it's just one of the army of experts that you have available in the AI agent space here now. So yeah, we'll take questions in on the side. We have any other folks? Robbie, I think you're still, I don't know why it's showing your thing, but. All right, get me back into the presentation mode. And yeah. So I got the next section too, so lucky me. So the next section is really on Data Manager. Now, Data Manager is a relatively new product feature we've had out now for a couple of years. And previous to Data Manager, there were old ways of doing the same work. And we've migrated most of the customers over to the new Data Management capabilities in terms of like, moving those that can move off into this one. And the two problems that we're really trying to establish here with out-of-the-box features to configure those policies that are around your governance teams and roles that would actually be required during the life cycle and end of life of the data in the CMDB. One of the things that I like to always teach customers is that when you bring data into the CMDB, you should have a plan to get rid of it as well. What is the trigger for that? Is it I can't discover it anymore? Is it an asset disposal process? Is it an application retirement process? Whatever it happens to be, you have to have a trigger for that. And you have to set up your lifecycle processes in order to make sure that happens. Otherwise, you will never get rid of a CI again. And that's not a good thing. I can't tell you how many customers don't really have these end-of-life processes set up. But yeah, during the life and end-of-life processes, you really need to make sure your data is governed. Now, your data governance tool that we have during the lifespan is the two key features, which are attestation and data certification. And they're different, and they accomplish different tasks for the users. I can't tell you how many times customers have asked me about the difference, and I hope this helps to clarify it for you. And you can basically use these features more, I would say, to benefit your processes. The attestation, what attestation does is it looks at the records and just ensures that the record is still valid. It doesn't look at any data. We don't look at the attributes or references or relationships or anything. We just provide that information and have the owner acknowledge that it's still current and we should continue to use it. The second item is data certification. This one is a bit more comprehensive. It does require you to not only define the CI class, but also to define the attributes that you want to be certified. And so if there is a change necessary, the owner of that CI can actually make those changes. And we also have added the ability to do this for non-CMDB tables as well. And just a quick note, we're seeing a greater interest in non-CMDB table data management. There's a market out there called master data management. This sort of addresses some of those master data management requirements. And the CMDB itself is nothing more than a master data management system for technology. But yeah, we're starting to spread our wings into non-CMDB tables here too. Just a quick note, ownership is critical here too. You can't assign these tasks if you don't know who the owners are. So some of those previous agents that we walked through are going to be very useful. Also, the technical management services to assign agent the ownership at scale is a very useful thing. We talk about that in our CSDM and training courses, as well as our new data foundations certification. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the CI class owners are a backup approach. I don't recommend CI class owners at scale because different people usually own different segments of the different data centers, or they might own different classes, segments of the classes, depending on being production or non-prod. Now, the policies for end of life, we have 3 key policies. They are often used in this order. The first one is to trigger a retirement policy to turn on. So that would take your operational status, stage status, and basically turn it to a retired status based on some sort of trigger. The trigger could be, I haven't found it in 90 days. So these are some of the common practices that we see. The next 2 are really dependent on what's required for your data retention policies for this information. Archive allows you to archive the CIs into our normal platform archival capabilities, and deletion deletes it entirely. So certain CIs may need to be archived and retained for a period of time. 7 years is a common thing here in the United States. But these are 2 features to make sure that you declutter your system and make sure that you have only the operational CIs available to your users. So these are things that we often talk about to customers. This is a really important tool to use. And we do have some training courses that will cover this as well if you're not using it now. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jamie Tucker, for the next section.
Thank you, Mark. So you guys are in for an amazing treat. I put something in the notes. You can actually be amongst the first people to hold this brand new certification just for data foundations. This is testing your knowledge on CMDB, CSDM, pretty much everything that everyone's already talked about before me. And I can guarantee you this is really going to set you apart from your peers, from other partners. We've been working on updating the training for the past year. And this exam, we've had quite a few people already take it. And we literally just went live on the 25th of July. So I highly recommend going out to ServiceNow University. And again, check the chat. I put the link in there that gives you the Mainline certification starting path. So what's in it for you, and how can this set your organization up for successful AI outcomes? So if you're looking to drive and utilize AI, everything Mark talked about with our Now Assist AI agents, you really need a strong, healthy data foundation. So what this certification does, it really sets the gold standard. So it proves and it makes sure that you understand all the different pillars needed to actually successfully implement and operationalize a CMDB. So the 3 pillars we talk about are ingest, govern, and insight. And I think Mark kind of alluded to this, where a lot of people seem to really struggle is the governance piece. And that's a really hard thing to understand, but it's very doable. We have quite a few customers, especially our Data Foundations PAC members, who've really mastered the art of governance. So part of what you do before you go ahead and take this test is you're going to go through all the training that we've updated. And again, it took quite a bit of work. We have a YouTube channel that we can put in the chat as well that will supplement your training. But it'll talk about the next subject that Mark's going to cover, CSDM 5. So some of those concepts are on there. So if you're a partner, this is really going to give you that additional credibility. If you want to go ahead and do a customer implementation and you have this certification, it will set you apart. And one of the ways that we can differentiate you as a partner is that we give you a special, there's a product line achievement and certain certifications that are associated with that people can find on the ServiceNow Partner Finder. And when you get these slides, this link at the bottom of this slide is going to be active, so you can go ahead and look at that. And if you're looking for a job, I mean, some of you are already doing a great job, but you might be looking for a job. This is going to make you stand out on your resume that you have this Mainline certification, and you can say you're one of the inaugural members that has this entire suite certification. So when you go ahead and take the Mainline, you also will be accomplishing 2 other micro certifications that are already part of the learning path. And again, for the employers, they do want to really find people that have this robust 3-pillar type of knowledge across the platform. Not just can you go in and implement, but can you operationalize? Are you leveraging data governance? Are you leveraging the out-of-the-box features, the dashboards? So there's a lot of components that really come into play with this. So if we go to the next slide. So this just kind of walks you through. You saw this slide a little bit earlier with Mark. What I've added here are some of the features that tie in to all of these verbs that we see on the left. So as you're continuously bringing in data, you're really understanding the complete ingestion pipeline. You understand the integration hub ETL, how to leverage the IRE, which is the identification and reconciliation engine. You're utilizing service graph connectors. And again, we showed you API insights and SGC Central. So different ways to manage those integrations and SGCs. So all of these things on the left, and I'm not going to go through each one, but you'll see where it really specifically ties into some of these out-of-the-box features. And again, what we do now is we're very carefully listening to the information and the requirements that you guys bring to us, and we build that into our roadmap. So the roadmap Mark shared very much aligned with what we heard from our customers who have a seat at the table through our PAC, through direct communication with us, through our ServiceNow community. So we've really made a big effort, probably in the last couple of years, to truly bring in the customer into our design process. So if you go to the next slide. And this just shows you kind of the learning path. So I'm not going to say it's an easy exam, which is why it's meaningful. What happens is if you're what we call a minimally qualified candidate, and that doesn't mean that you just know the basics. It means that you've got a decent mastery of how to go in, implement, set up a data foundation that is CSDM aware, that truly acknowledges the 3 pillars. Those are all the components. So all these courses on the left are the prerequisites that you really have to take in order to eventually receive the voucher. The voucher you will get when you take CMDB fundamentals, which is kind of in the middle. There are 2 options. Of course, you can do the instructor-led, which is great. You can also do on-demand training, which is free. So as far as I'm aware, all of our on-demand courses we've made free for you guys. So I definitely would suggest taking advantage of those. I know you have to pay for the vouchers. So I don't know, Glenn, if you're on, you can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong about any of that. But I highly recommend, even if you think you really have a good mastery of CMDB fundamentals, we have updated some of the sections in that training. So I highly recommend going out and retaking it And you will need to have a really good understanding of that to pass this exam. So the other one that we have been working on quite a bit was the CSDM fundamentals. And again, that's going to incorporate CSDM 5. And you want to get a good handle on that. Now, Mark will talk about that in the next section. It doesn't mean that your CMDB has to be on CSDM 5. You're going to start where you need to start in your journey. But Mark will talk too about kind of where we're at now in our delivery of that product and that data model. So the only other thing with this is that because it's now a mainline certification, is that every year you will need to recertify. And that's just a short test, and you will get exam materials to help you understand new product features, things that are changing. But again, it's just a phenomenal credential to have, and I highly recommend it. So the next slide is our last one. And I really just included this. So when you get the deck from our live on ServiceNow support team, these will give you all the links that you need. So you'll start with the mainline credential path. If you want to look at the exam blueprint, that just talks about some of the objectives, different areas that are covered in the exam. And it's just a great cross-section of information that you will need to establish a good data foundation and operationalize it for the future. And then just some general FAQs that we've captured across the board. So again, go to the chat, make sure you click on that link and just set up a plan to take the training and then take the exam. And we really wish you good luck on that. And we think it's going to be a great credential to have.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. And I do see questions coming in. I think I saw Glenn Pinto in there, who is the mastermind behind a lot of the training that we just kind of presented. So thank you, Glenn, for helping us get that out to the market. I'm sure all our customers here and partners will appreciate that. All right, for the next section, CSDM 5, we just dropped the training for this for this topic just yesterday. So it is brand new, hot off the press, and if you haven't already gone out there to register for that, I would encourage you to do that. It's going to be on one of the links that we provide. And so CSDM 5 is just a quick overview. I can't do the entire training in the time provided, but the thing that's different between what we had and what we have now is that we do have a vision and North Star for CSDM because we continue to grow the model. And a lot of folks don't understand why we're growing it in what is changing. What's the vector here that we're on in terms of how we're changing it, why we're changing it, and the types of things we're going to be addressing. So that's been articulated. There's a new graphics layout, which is easier for most people to read. It's left to right, and a little better layout in terms of how we discuss it or communicate the overall different domains. We do have new domains of information that we've added. I'll get to that in a minute. So, of course, new objects that are common. The one thing I want to really basically stress here is that we don't really cover every data element in the platform. We're just really focused on what's common. And so just keep that in mind. We don't have answers for everything, but we really just try to stick with the common stuff. There's a lot more detail coming as well in the paper, especially with regards to the life cycle definitions. And we're going to be ramping up our guidance as well, and some of the deliverables later this year as well. So I'll talk about that. A couple label changes. Those are probably the biggest impacts that we've had. The biggest, I'll talk about those in a minute, but the functionality hasn't changed, only the label. So just keep that in mind, that we're very conscious of not, upsetting everybody with a major change here. And it's not about, oh, I have to redo everything because I've got a new version of CSDM. It's just really additive and label changes. One big area that we actually tackled in this revision was software versions. We have SAM and HAM for product versions that are commercial. We didn't really have a good mechanism to deal with in-source software, firmware, or open source software. So that's been addressed in this particular update. And it's now, more importantly, engineering driven. And what that really means is that the engineers are looking at CSDM as the engineered model for the platform. And so as we continue to evolve, the engineers are involved to make sure that we understand how the products and the platform is evolving, at a ground level, basically. And so our best practices and our guidance are aligned to that. And there is a bit of a challenge in CSDM that I will state, because some of the things we introduce in CSDM have not been picked up by all the product teams. And a good example of that over the last few years are the new life cycles. We introduced those, I want to say, in the Paris release, and still we have product teams that are evolving and transitioning over to them. And so this is a common challenge with CSDM. Some of these new elements that you're going to see aren't supported yet, but we have a roadmap to support them. From a North Star perspective, the vision is basically pretty simple, and that is to be able to understand all your providers of services, of products that you buy, how they're used internally through the different layers, and how people get work done internally, and all the way out to the connected devices and end customers that use those services or products that you sell. Because we've got so many industries we need to cover with one data model, there's going to be a lot of common stuff, and then some unique things. So managing, for example, hospital services requires devices in a hospital that no other industry may really care about. But the fact that there's printers in the hospital printing things, or computers and networks, all of that is still common IT stuff. So a lot of what these newer products, digital products, I like to call them, are now requiring IT management approaches. And so that's kind of where we're blending this classic IT management challenge into the more mature digital product world. So that's a big thing to consider. This is just giving you an indication of what those different domains are. I'm not going to go through this. We'll go through it in the training, but gives you a taste of the new domain. It's called Ideation and Strategy. And we've changed the names of some of the other domains to better reflect what's going on, especially service delivery, because people are managing infrastructure or delivery systems, which are radios and towers if you're in a telecommunications. But whatever those things are, that to deliver that service, those entities need to be up and running. And so we expand quite a bit there. This is the full old style model. And as you'll find in the training, the way Scott basically likes to characterize this is the last time you'll see this style of the diagram. We're moving instead of this style, which I've never really liked myself, because it's harder to read and see the flow of things. And the new style is basically left to right. And we're going to be putting the models and the examples and other talk tracks into this format from left to right, where you naturally form a process basically aligned to these data domains. So ideation and strategy is the new one, where we get into product ideas and planning items that turn into investments that you're designing and planning on. Then that goes over to build and integrate, where development teams get their work done and deliver stuff that lands in the data center or in the products that the customers have in their hands. And that's service delivery. And then who exactly is consuming things is in the service consumption domain on the far right. The stuff on the bottom, all of that is still very important, and it becomes more and more important as we extend into, let's say, the location of my customers. So that's kind of why some of this bottom tier needs to be managed better and more like an MDM on our platform. It's kind of an active MDM because we're creating or evolving the data at the same time as referencing it. So it does present some unique challenges, but this is definitely a huge opportunity for us and you to leverage that underlying foundational data. The other thing that we're introducing in the training you're going to see is two new approaches in adding to the one we used to have, which is like crawl, walk, run, fly. What we found is customers were struggling with an outcome when they're getting the data model right in the old way. So we've introduced outcome centric, which basically starts with the end in mind. So if you have a certain product that you're using and it has certain metrics and you want to see improved, we work backwards to understand the data and the data sources so that you get that data right for that particular outcome. The HAM Advisor and the SAM Advisor I just spoke about earlier is pretty much along that vein. Domain-centric is really just evolving on that to say everybody that's a service owner needs all their functionality, and maybe there's 10 or 12 metrics that are going to be addressed. And to best show that, I have a couple slides here in a minute, but I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. The things that you have to think about, these are just a breakdown of some of the changes. The two changes that we made were technology management services instead of technical services. This is a key thing to note, that it's the same functionality, but we're trying to distinguish it better from business service, which many customers are very confused about. The application service base class changed to service instance. The application services are all still there. So I can't tell you how many customers are confusing that we've changed everything. No, we changed the base class only to accommodate the new classes that were introduced. For interest of time, I don't have the time to kind of get into all of that, but please take the training and you'll see what I mean there. All right, so we have about 8 minutes left, six minutes left, maybe somewhere in line. And I want to just talk a little bit about the roadmap that we are planning to invest in and leave a few minutes for questions. So this is the latest roadmap that I have. It does have some of the items we've talked about already. I just want to point out a few additional things that we're working on. We talked about the advisors, right? That's going to be out in the 2026 area. Yep, looks like Ham is here. Thanks, Robbie, for correcting on that. Some of the things we're working on is better foundation workspace. So there's a huge effort to kind of overhaul the workspace itself to make it much more usable. So my colleagues that are on the call, they're doing a lot of great work and looking at simplifying, making the workspace much better for our customer base. And we're doing a lot more API-related service graph connectors, as Nick already covered. There's another project that we're involved in called Service Modeler. That's the code name. But basically, a lot of customers struggle to create services. They're not sure if it's a business or technical thing. They're not sure where to put it in the taxonomy. They're not sure, what kind of offering they need to create and what does that offering entail. So this service modeler is being reimagined as a advisory agent that will take you through it. So somebody like me or somebody with experience in the field will know how to do this because we have experience. Not every customer has that experience, but with an AI-led process, we think we can actually make that much easier for all users. So that's kind of the net of it. And so we've got multiple teams working on parts of that. And so expect some great things next year as we get better about creating and managing those models. Just a quick tour on this. There's a lot of work being done in different product areas. I kind of mentioned things already. There are some changes happening, in the DevOps and the EA team. There's something that we're introducing called digital system. Just a very quick overview on what that means is really if I combine the application and service, I create a system, or maybe there's 5 applications and maybe a piece of hardware that I'm actually creating, a smart car, a smart watch. So that digital system is really the combination of all those things that make up a digital product or a service that I'm providing. So as we're getting more into systems thinking, systems design, we want to be able to carry that all the way through the rest of the model. So there's a lot of work being done in there. If you have followed me, out there, you'll have probably read some of the IT for IT stuff that I publish. This is sort of foreshadowing our adoption and use of some of the concepts I've published on the standards bodies like IT for IT. And last thing before we get to questions, just another view of what we're going in terms of some of the other things we're doing. EA Modeler, so our enterprise architecture team has a visual modeling capability where we're looking at using this to model CSDM. So there's some interesting things we can do there if we're using our own modeling capability. It's different than the unified maps or dependency view because these are more of a human layout that preserves the layout, and you may have future states in there and current states. So we've been working with this team for some time to make sure that you can model things, future states and see them current states and then even the differences. So there's a lot more to cover. We don't really have time. I'm just going to make sure that there's time for a question or two. I think a lot of the other questions might be answered in other material like training. So I did want to provide a set of resources that you can use. Impact is of course, they have a whole community in offerings. If you're an Impact customer, training and certification, definitely go to there as Jamie highlighted, and then expert services to get some of the work done. If you do see some things that you need to, reorient your data, for example, or to help set on, data manager policies or whatever it is, they're available too. And I wanted to thank you. I know about 2 minutes over. Thank you for joining us. A server will plop up after we complete this, and have a great day or evening on wherever you are.